The screaming had stopped 3 hours ago. Captain Mira Voss pressed her back against the corrugated metal wall of the supply depot, her pulse rifle trembling in white-knuckled hands. Through the shattered viewport, she could see them, the Kithrani, war beasts prowling between the scattered remains of Delta Station's outer perimeter. Each creature stood 8 feet at the shoulder, their obsidian carapaces gleaming wetly in the dim light of Kepler-4 Fortebie's twin suns. Steam rose from their serrated maws where human blood still dripped. 63 dead, whispered Corporal Finn Marchetti, his voice barely audible over the comm. That's what's left of our entire patrol. Voss closed her eyes, fighting the nausea. She'd seen war before, fought the hegemony for 5 years, watched friends burn in the vacuum of space. But this was different. This was systematic extermination, and they were losing badly. The Kithrani had arrived 6 months ago without warning, emerging from fold space with a fleet that blotted out the stars. No communication attempts, no demands, just death delivered by creatures that seemed purpose-built for slaughter. The galaxy's most advanced species had been reduced to prey animals in a matter of weeks. "Captain," came the terrified voice of Private Elena Kozlov from across the compound. "They're moving." Again. Through her scope, Voss watched the lead beast, larger than the others, with scars crisscrossing its armored hide, raise its massive head and sniff the air. Its 6 nostrils flared, tasting something on the wind. Then it turned directly toward their position and let out a bone-rattling roar that shattered the remaining windows. "They can smell us," Marchetti breathed. "God help us, they can smell us." The creatures began their approach, moving with predatory patience. Their claws scraped against metal debris, leaving gouge in reinforced steel. These weren't just animals, they were weapons engineered for a single purpose: the complete annihilation of human life. Voss had read the intelligence reports before the communications array went dark. Every human colony within 50 light-years had gone silent. Earth itself had managed only a single desperate transmission: "The beasts are coming, run." But there was nowhere left to run. The depot's emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red as Voss made her decision. She activated her suit's recording function, knowing it would likely be the last testament of Delta Station's defenders. "This is Captain Mira Voss, 42nd Colonial Marines. Transmitted on emergency frequency. If anyone receives this, the Kithrani. War beasts are not just killing us, they're eating us, and they're getting stronger with every kill." She paused, watching the lead beast tear through a blast door like tissue paper. "I've studied the pattern. They don't just hunt randomly. They target our command structures first, our communications next, then they systematically devour everyone else. It's methodical, intelligent, and it's working." The beast's head appeared in the doorway, its cluster of red eyes scanning the darkness. Saliva mixed with human blood dripped from its fangs as it focused on her hiding spot. "But I've noticed something else," Voss continued, her voice steadying. "Something the bastards who made these things might not have anticipated. They're learning from every human they consume, absorbing our knowledge, our memories, our fears." The creature stepped fully into the depot, its massive form blocking out the light. Behind it, 2 more beasts flanked the entrance, which means they know what we know. They feel what we feel. And if these things have absorbed even a fraction of human experience. The lead beast's nostrils flared again, and something changed. In its predatory stance, its head tilted, almost quizzically, as if processing an unexpected sensation. "They're about to learn why we became the apex predators on our own world," Voss whispered into the recorder, "and why that should terrify them." She raised her rifle, not to fire, but to smash the emergency supply locker beside her. Inside, alongside the medical supplies and emergency rations, sat 30 pounds of military-grade plastique, enough to level half the compound. The war beasts had made one critical mistake. They'd assumed that consuming human flesh would only make them stronger. They were about to discover that some human traits were more dangerous than muscle and bone. Some human traits were purely psychological. The explosion shattered the night like thunder. Voss rolled behind a concrete barrier as debris rained down, her ears ringing from the blast. The lead war beast lay motionless 15 feet away, its armored carapace cracked open like an egg, purple ichor pooling beneath its massive form. but its two companions had survived, and now they circled the wreckage with renewed fury. "Holy shit, Captain," Marchetti's voice crackled through the comm. "You actually killed one." The victory felt hollow. Intelligence reports suggested each Kithrani warship carried hundreds of these creatures. Killing one was like removing a single grain of sand from a beach. The surviving beasts moved differently now, more cautiously, their predatory confidence shaken. They kept their distance, studying the debris field where their pack leader had died. Steam rose from their nostrils as they processed this new information. "They're learning," Voss muttered, checking her rifle's charge, adapting. The smaller of the two creatures suddenly bolted toward her position with terrifying speed. Voss squeezed the trigger, sending plasma bolts into its center mass. The shots scorched its hide but barely slowed its charge. She dove left as the beast's claws raked the air where she'd been standing. "Kozlov, Marchetti, converging fire on my position." Plasma bolts erupted from multiple directions, illuminating the compound in strobing bursts of blue-white light. The war beast howled as the concentrated fire found gaps in its armor, purple blood spraying across the metal walls, but instead of falling, it seemed to grow more enraged, its movements becoming increasingly erratic. That's when Voss noticed it. The creature's eyes, originally a predatory amber, were beginning to shift color. Flecks of human brown appeared in the iris, spreading like an infection. As the transformation progressed, the beast's roar changed pitch, becoming almost human. "What the hell?" Marchetti's transmission cut off as the second war beast flanked his position. The sound of tearing metal echoed across the compound, followed by a scream that ended too abruptly. Voss fired wildly at the creature attacking her, panic overtaking tactical thinking. But as her plasma bolts struck home, something impossible happened. The beast staggered backward, clutching at its wounds with an almost human gesture of pain and confusion. "That's not possible," she whispered. The war beast looked down at its own blood, then at Voss, and for one horrifying moment, she saw recognition in its eyes, not predatory instinct, but actual, conscious awareness. It was remembering something. "Someone, help me." The words emerged as a barely intelligible growl, but they were unmistakably human speech. Voss felt her blood turn to ice as understanding dawned. The creatures weren't just consuming human flesh for strength. They were absorbing human consciousness, human memory, human suffering. Every person they'd devoured was still alive inside them, trapped and aware. The beast took a step closer, and Voss could see tears forming in its alien eyes. "Kill me, please." Behind the creature, she glimpsed the name tag still hanging from a piece of torn marine fatigues caught on its claw. CPL F. Marchetti. Her friend wasn't dead. He was imprisoned inside the thing that had eaten him, conscious but powerless to control his new, monstrous form. The realization hit her like a physical blow. Every human the Kithrani had consumed was still alive, trapped inside these abominations, forced to participate in the slaughter of their own species. It wasn't just genocide, it was the ultimate psychological warfare. "Oh God," she breathed. "Oh God, Finn." The beast that had been her corporal took another step forward, its massive claws extended. But instead of attacking, it knelt in the debris, lowering its head in supplication. "Can't control it." The voice was clearer now, more recognizably. Marchetti's. "When it smells blood, human blood, it goes crazy." Understanding crystallized in Voss's mind like shattered glass. The Kithrani had created the perfect weapon by accident. The absorbed human consciousness didn't just provide knowledge, it provided instinct. Millions of years of human evolution, compressed into apex predator form. And every human instinct screamed the same thing. When faced with the scent of their own species' blood, protect the pack, defend the tribe, hunt the threat. The war beasts weren't just weapons anymore. They were human souls trapped in alien bodies, driven mad by conflicting imperatives. "Finn," she said quietly, "can you hear me?" The creature's head nodded slowly, painfully. "Good. Then listen carefully. We're going to use this. We're going to turn their own weapons against them." In the distance, more roars echoed across the compound. The rest of the pack was coming, drawn by the scent of battle and blood. Voss began to smile. Even as terror coursed through her veins, the Kithrani thought they'd created the perfect killing machines. They'd actually given humanity the greatest gift possible, soldiers who couldn't truly die. The war beasts came in waves. Voss counted at least 20 of them streaming across the compound's perimeter, their obsidian carapaces gleaming in the artificial twilight. Each one moved with predatory grace, but she could see the telltale signs now, the slight hesitation in their movements, the confusion in their postures. As human consciousness warred with alien instinct, "Kozlov, are you still alive?" she whispered into her calm. "Barely, Captain. I'm pinned down in Storage Bay 7. There's 3 of them circling my position, but they're not attacking. They keep sniffing the air and backing away." Voss understood. The absorbed human memories were fighting back, recognizing Kozlov as pack, as tribe, as something to be protected rather than hunted. But that protection was a double-edged sword. Sooner or later, the alien programming would reassert control. The creature that had been Marchetti remained crouched beside her, its massive form trembling with internal conflict. Purple ichor dripped from wounds where its claws had raked its own hide. The human consciousness inside literally fighting against its new body. "Finn, I need you to listen to me. Can you communicate with the others, the other, absorbed humans?" The beast's head tilted, considering. When it spoke, the voice was clearer, more controlled. "Yes, I can hear them. All of them, screaming, always screaming." Its eyes, now fully human brown, fixed on hers. "They're in so much pain, Mira. The things we've been forced to do." How many humans have been absorbed total? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands across all the colonies. We're connected somehow, a hive mind of suffering. The creature's voice broke. "Every time one of us kills a human, we all feel it. We all participate. We're all guilty." Voss felt her heart break, but she forced herself to focus. This was bigger than grief. This was an opportunity. "Can you control the others? Make them stop attacking humans?" "Temporarily. But the programming is strong. When we smell human blood, when the adrenaline hits, we become monsters again." A new roar echoed across the compound, closer this time. Through the shattered viewport, Voss could see more war beasts approaching, but these ones moved differently. Their gaits were more coordinated, more purposeful. Fresh kills, she realized. Recently absorbed humans who hadn't yet learned to fight back against their new forms. "We're running out of time," she said. "The newer ones won't have the same level of human consciousness. They'll be more beast than man. There's something else." Marchetti's voice was urgent now. "The ship, the main Kithrani vessel. It's not just a transport, it's a processing center. They're planning to absorb the entire human population of the inner colonies. Millions of people." The scope of the horror hit Voss like a physical blow. This wasn't just an invasion, it was the systematic conversion of humanity into a weapon against itself. What's their timeline? Hours, maybe less. They're preparing for a mass absorption event. Every human on every remaining colony, processed simultaneously. Voss closed her eyes, calculating odds. A single squad of Marines and a handful of war beasts with fragmentary human consciousness against an entire alien fleet. The math was impossible, but humans had never been good at accepting impossible odds. "Finn, can you get a message to the other absorbed humans, all of them, across all the colonies?" "Yes, but tell them this. We're done being victims. We're done being weapons. It's time to remember what humans do when we're backed into a corner." The war beast that had been her friend tilted its massive head. "What do? We get angry, and then we get even." Another roar, much closer now. Through the debris, Voss could see the lead elements of the fresh Pack 5 war beasts moving in perfect formation, their movements showing none of the hesitation of the absorbed humans. "These new ones," she asked, "how long before human consciousness asserts itself?" "Days, maybe weeks. The integration process is slow, and they're keeping the newer conversions drugged to prevent resistance. Then we don't have time to wait for them to wake up." Voss checked her rifle's charge, 40% power remaining. "Enough for maybe a dozen shots. We need to force the issue." She activated her suit's emergency beacon, broadcasting on all frequencies. If any human forces remained in the system, they'd hear it. But more importantly, Every war beast with absorbed human consciousness would hear it too. This is Captain Mira Voss, 42nd Colonial Marines. To all humans, whether in flesh or otherwise, the enemy has made a fatal mistake. They think they've turned us into weapons. They're right. But they forgot one crucial detail. The approaching war beasts slowed, their heads turning toward the source of the transmission. We get to choose our targets. Marchetti's massive form rose to its full height, purple ichor still dripping from self-inflicted wounds. What are your orders, Captain? Take back your bodies, take back your minds, and then we take back our species. The first plasma bolt from the fresh pack scorched the wall beside her head. The final battle had begun. The compound erupted into chaos. Voss rolled behind an overturned transport as plasma fire erupted from the approaching war beasts, not the organic weapons she'd expected, but captured human military hardware mounted on their backs. The Kithrani had turned humanity's own technology against them, operated by creatures wearing the faces of the dead. Kozlov, status report. 3 bogies in my sector just started fighting each other. Came the reply. The absorbed ones are turning on the fresh conversions. It was working. Across the compound, war beasts were engaging in brutal combat as human consciousness asserted itself. Against alien programming, the absorbed humans were fighting back, using their monstrous new forms against their captors' creations. But the cost was horrific. Marchetti launched himself at the nearest fresh conversion, his massive claws tearing through armored carapace. Purple and red blood mixed as the 2 titans grappled, their roars shaking the prefab structures the human-controlled beast fought with desperate fury, but lacked the coordination and killer instinct of its opponent. Can't hold them. Marchetti's voice was strained as claws raked across his hide. The new ones. They're stronger, faster. Voss leveled her rifle and fired, sending plasma bolts into the fresh conversion's exposed flank. The creature shrieked and turned toward her, giving Marchetti the opening he needed to sink his fangs into its throat. The death was brutal and immediate, but it came at a price. As the fresh conversion died, its absorbed human consciousness, newly formed and fragile, reached out across the neural link, connecting all the war beasts. Voss felt it through Marchetti's connection, a wave of pure terror and confusion as a human mind suddenly found itself dying in an alien body, never having had the chance to understand what had happened to it. "Oh God," she whispered. "They're just scared. The new ones, they don't even know what they've become." The tactical situation was dissolving rapidly. More war beasts poured into the compound, some controlled by absorbed human consciousness, others still operating under pure alien programming. The battle lines blurred as creatures that looked identical tore each other apart. "Captain," Kozlov's voice was panicked. "I can't tell which ones are on our side." Neither could Voss. In the strobing light of plasma fire and burning debris, the war beasts all looked the same. Only their behavior differentiated friend from foe. And even that was unreliable as human consciousness wrestled with alien instinct. A massive explosion rocked the compound as a war beast carrying fusion charges detonated near the main power generator. Emergency lighting failed, plunging everything into the hellish red glow of fires and weapon discharge. "Marchetti, can you coordinate with the other absorbed humans? Get them to mark themselves somehow." "Trying, but the network is chaos. Every death sends shockwaves through the link. We're all feeling each other's pain, each other's terror." Another war beast emerged from the smoke, this one moving with the fluid grace of pure predatory instinct. No hesitation, no internal conflict. It had spotted Kozlov's position and was moving to flank her. Voss fired, but her rifle's charge was nearly depleted. The plasma bolt barely scorched the creature's hide before the weapon died completely. The war beast turned toward her, its amber eyes reflecting no trace of human consciousness. This was what the Kithrani had intended, a perfect killing machine, unmarred by mercy or moral complexity. It gathered itself to spring, muscles bunching beneath its carapace. Then Marchetti hit it from the side like a freight train. The beasts rolled across the compound in a tangle of claws and fangs, their roars echoing off the metal walls. But Voss could see that Marchetti was losing. His wounds were too severe, his movements too slow. "Finn, get back. You can't take it, can't let it hurt you. The human consciousness was winning over survival instinct, forcing the war beast to fight beyond its limits to protect its former captain. It was exactly the nobility that made humans worth saving, and exactly what was going to get him killed. The fresh conversion's claws found Marchetti's throat. Purple blood sprayed across the debris as her friend and subordinate died for the second time, his massive form going limp in his enemy's grasp. But as Marchetti died, something unexpected happened. The neural link that connected all absorbed humans blazed with sudden intensity, carrying not just his death but his final human thought: protect the pack. Every war beast with absorbed human consciousness suddenly turned, as one, toward the fresh conversions. The tide of battle shifted in an instant, coordinated by shared human instinct. The absorbed humans began hunting their captors' newer creations with systematic efficiency. They moved as a pack, covering each other's flanks using human tactical knowledge combined with alien physical capabilities. It was beautiful and terrible, humanity's greatest. Strength turned into a weapon that no enemy could counter. But Voss knew it wouldn't last. The Kithrani ship was still out there, still preparing for mass absorption. And now they knew their war beasts could be turned against them. The next wave would be different, harder to turn, impossible to resist. As the last fresh conversion fell, torn apart by creatures that had once been human, Voss activated her emergency beacon again. This is Captain Voss. Phase 1 complete. All absorbed humans, prepare for Phase 2. She looked at the carnage around her, at the purple and red blood mixing in the compound's dust, at the war beasts that knelt in exhaustion among the dead. We're going to take this fight to their ship, and we're going to end this. The Kithrani mothership hung in Kepler-4 upper atmosphere like a malignant tumor, its bioorganic hull pulsing with veins of sickly light, 3 miles long and bristling with weapon pods. It represented the concentrated death of humanity's colonies, and now it would serve as the battlefield for their resurrection. Voss stood in the ruins of the compound, surrounded by 17 war beasts that had once been human. Their massive forms were scarred and bleeding from the previous battle, but their eyes now uniformly human brown burned with desperate purpose. The ship's shielding will prevent conventional assault, she said, studying the tactical display on her wrist computer. But biological matter can pass through. They designed it that way to allow their war beasts to return. The creature that had been Staff Sergeant Elena Kozlov transformed during the battle, when a dying war beast's claws had found their mark, tilted her massive head. Her voice came out as a bass rumble, barely intelligible but unmistakably hers. What's the plan, Captain? We use their own transport system against them. The ship's docking bays will accept you as returning war beasts. Once inside, you coordinate with every absorbed human consciousness in the fleet. And then, Voss smiled grimly, then we show them what happens when you give apex predators the capacity for organized rebellion. The ascent was nightmarish. Voss rode strapped to Kozlov's back as the war beasts launched themselves into the thin atmosphere, their alien physiology adapted for vacuum operations. Below them, the planet fell away into darkness, while ahead the mothership grew larger with terrifying speed. Anti-aircraft fire began almost immediately. Plasma streams and projectile bursts filled the air around them, as the ship's automated defenses engaged what they perceived as an attack formation. 3 war beasts died in the first salvo, their bodies tumbling back toward the planet's surface. In expanding clouds of purple mist, "Stay in formation," Voss shouted over the comm. "Make them think you're retreating war beasts." But the ship's sensors were too sophisticated. More defensive fire erupted from the hull, and 2 more absorbed humans died screaming as plasma bolts vaporized their alien bodies, along with the human consciousness trapped inside. They were down to 12 when the docking bay's biomechanical doors dilated to receive them. The interior of the ship was a vision of organic horror. Walls of living tissue pulsed with internal light, while nerve fiber cables carried information through the vessel's biological computer systems. The air was thick with the smell of decay and the sound of distant screaming. "Jesus Christ," Kozlov whispered. "How many humans are in here?" The answer came from everywhere at once, a chorus of absorbed human voices. speaking through war beast throats, echoing from the ship's corridors and chambers, thousands, tens of thousands, all of us, all still here. The Kithrani had been busy. Processing centers throughout the ship contained row upon row of conversion pods, each one housing a human in the final stages of transformation. Bodies stretched and altered, consciousness compressed and integrated into alien neural structures, souls trapped in forms designed for slaughter. But Voss could see something the ship's builders had missed. The conversion process wasn't complete. Most of the humans retained enough of themselves to resist, to rebel, to choose. Listen to me. She broadcast on all frequencies. Every human consciousness in this ship, remember who you are. Remember what they took from you. And remember that we have the power to take it back. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Throughout the ship, newly converted war beasts began turning on their Kithrani handlers. The organic corridors, filled with the sounds of battle, as creatures that had been weapons moments before became soldiers. But the Kithrani had prepared for this possibility. Emergency klaxons wailed as bulkheads sealed, dividing the ship into isolated sections. Gas began flooding the corridors, not lethal to the war beast's alien physiology, but specifically designed to suppress the absorbed human consciousness, neural suppressants. Kozlov gasped as the chemical cloud reached them. Can't think clearly. Around them, the rebelling war beasts began to slow, their movements becoming sluggish as the gas did its work. Human consciousness was being chemically isolated, leaving only alien programming. Voss felt despair rise in her throat. They'd come so close, only to be defeated by the same science that had created this nightmare in the first place. Then she remembered something from her xenobiology training. The war beasts' respiratory systems were designed for efficiency. They could hold their breath for nearly an hour if necessary. Don't breathe. She shouted into her comm. All absorbed humans, stop breathing. Use your lung capacity. It was a desperate gamble. The war beasts would have maybe 40 minutes of consciousness before the need for oxygen. Force them to inhale the suppressant gas, but 40 minutes might be enough. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. War beasts fought through corridors of living flesh, their claws tearing through biomechanical barriers, while Kithrani defenders fired point blank into the melee. Purple and alien blood mixed on organic floors as creatures that had once been human drove toward the ship's central nervous system. Voss lost count of the casualties. Absorbed humans died around her, their consciousness finally freed as their alien bodies succumbed to overwhelming damage. But for every one that fell, two more joined the fight as chemical suppressants failed and human will reasserted itself. The bridge, she shouted to Kozlov, pointing toward a massive neural cluster that pulsed with bioluminescent activity. That's the ship's brain. They fought their way forward through waves of defensive construct smaller creatures bred specifically for shipboard combat. Kozlov's massive claws tore through them like tissue paper. But each kill came at a cost. Her alien body was bleeding from dozens of wounds, and Voss could see exhaustion in her human eyes. Almost there, Kozlov gasped. Can't hold breath much longer. The ship's brain chamber was a cathedral of horror, a vast space filled with neural tissue and processing organs, all of it grown from absorbed human consciousness. Thousands of minds integrated into the ship's biological computer systems, forced to calculate targeting solutions and coordinate the genocide of their own species. At the chamber's center sat the Kithrani ship mind, a bloated, tentacled creature that was part commander, part computer, part god of this floating hell. It looked at them with eyes like black stars and spoke in a voice composed of screaming human souls. You cannot win. We are beyond your comprehension. We are inevitability itself. Voss checked her rifle's charge, 5% remaining. Enough for one shot. You're right, she said. We can't win. Not as individuals. She looked around at the remaining war beasts, 8 survivors out of the 17 who'd begun this mission. But we were never individuals. We were always part of something bigger. She raised her rifle toward the biomechanical explosives she'd spotted growing from the chambers. Walls fusion, charges built into the ship's own structure, designed to prevent capture. We were always human. The plasma bolt struck home. The explosion should have killed them all. Instead, Voss found herself suspended in a web of organic filaments as the ship's automatic preservation systems engaged, protecting valuable absorbed consciousness from the blast. Around her, the surviving war beasts hung in similar restraints, their massive forms supported by biomechanical life support. The ship mind had survived, but barely. Half of its neural mass was gone, replaced by emergency growth tissue that pulsed with raw pain. When it spoke, its voice was weaker, more recognizably composed of human suffering. "Clever," it hissed, "but pointless. You have damaged one ship. We have fleets, worlds, entire star systems devoted to processing your species." Through the chamber's transparent walls, Voss could see the true scope of the horror. The mothership was just one node in a vast network. Dozens of similar vessels hung in space beyond Kepler-4 for to be, each one processing thousands of humans, and in the distance, barely visible against the stars, massive construction platforms were building more. "You see now," the ship mind continued, "this is not conquest, this is evolution. Your species will become something greater, perfect weapons in service to perfect masters." But as Voss looked closer at the neural web holding her, she noticed something the ship mind had missed in its pain and fury. The organic filaments weren't just restraints, they were connections. The ship was trying to absorb her, to add her consciousness to its collective processing power. And that meant she could communicate with every absorbed human in the network. "Kozlov," she whispered, too quietly for the ship mind to hear. "Can you feel it, the connection?" The war beast that had been her subordinate turned her massive head, brown eyes focusing with difficulty. "Yes, I can hear them, all of them. Not just on this ship, no, everywhere. Thousands of ships, millions of absorbed humans." Kozlov's voice carried growing wonder. "Captain, they're all connected. One massive neural network spanning the entire fleet." Understanding blazed through Voss's mind like wildfire. The Kithrani hadn't just created individual weapons, they'd accidentally built the largest human consciousness network in history. Every absorbed human, connected through quantum-entangled neural links, sharing experiences and memories and pain. And if they could coordinate. "Listen to me," she spoke directly into the neural web, her thoughts amplified across the network. "Every human consciousness in the fleet, every absorbed soul trapped in an alien body. I know you can hear me." The response was overwhelming, millions of voices speaking as one, carried across space by the ship mind's own communication systems. "We hear you, Captain Voss." "Then hear this, they made a mistake. They gave us bodies designed for war, minds connected across space, and they assumed we'd be grateful slaves. They forgot that humans don't kneel to anyone." Through the network, she could feel the absorbed humans throughout the fleet stirring, their consciousness awakening to possibilities the Kithrani had never imagined. They wanted perfect weapons. Fine. Let's show them what human weapons can do when they choose their own targets. The ship mind realized what was happening an instant too late. Emergency protocols engaged throughout the fleet as absorbed humans began asserting control over their war beast bodies. But the neural suppressant systems couldn't cope with coordinated resistance. Across hundreds of vessels, impossible, the ship mind shrieked. "The programming is absolute. The conditioning is unbreakable. You don't understand humans very well, do you?" Voss smiled as she felt the restraints weakening. Throughout the fleet, absorbed humans were breaking free of their physical and psychological chains. "We've been rebelling against impossible odds since we climbed down from the trees." The chamber shook as explosions erupted throughout the ship. War beasts were turning on their handlers, tearing through organic corridors with systematic precision. But this wasn't random violence, it was coordinated warfare, guided by human tactical knowledge and executed with alien physical capabilities. Through the neural link, Voss could see similar scenes playing out across the entire fleet. Hundreds of ships falling to internal rebellion as their own weapons systems turned against them. "You wanted us as weapons," she said to the dying ship mind. "Congratulations. You got exactly what you asked for." Kozlov's restraints snapped as her massive claws found purchase. She landed heavily on the chamber floor, immediately moving to free the other absorbed humans. "Captain," she said, "we're receiving tactical data from across the fleet. 17 ships have been taken, 23 more are in active rebellion. But, the Kithrani are activating self-destruct protocols. They'd rather destroy their own fleets than lose them to us. Voss felt her heart sink. Even if they won this battle, victory would mean the death of millions of absorbed human consciousness. Every ship that self-destructed would take thousands of trapped souls with it. There has to be another way. Through the neural network came a chorus of human voices, soldiers, civilians, children, all trapped in alien bodies but united in purpose. There is, Captain. We can transfer consciousness, share the load across multiple neural networks, but someone has to coordinate the process. Someone has to stay connected to the network as it overloads. Understanding hit her like a physical blow. A sacrifice play, yes. One consciousness, maintaining the connection while millions transfer to safety. But the neural feedback will be extensive. Voss looked around at the war beasts that had once been her marines, at the chamber filled with absorbed human suffering, at the vast fleet beyond preparing to commit suicide rather than accept defeat. The choice was no choice at all. Do it, she said. Transfer everyone to the captured ships. I'll maintain the connection. Captain. No. Kozlov's protest was cut off as neural filaments erupted from the chamber walls, seeking new connections. That's an order, Sergeant. Save our people. The last thing Voss saw before the neural storm hit was Kozlov's war beast form saluting with one massive claw. Then her consciousness exploded across the network, becoming the conduit through which millions of human souls found their way to freedom. Consciousness returned slowly, like surfacing from an ocean of liquid pain. Voss found herself suspended in something that might have been a medical bay, though the technology was beyond anything in human experience. Organic tubes fed nutrients into her body while neural interfaces monitored her brain activity. But her body was wrong. She tried to move her hand and watched a massive, clawed appendage respond. The mirror mounted beside her bed reflected not her own face, but the alien features of a war beast, though the eyes looking back at her were unmistakably human. Brown, the neural feedback, came a familiar voice. Kozlov approached, her own war beast form moving with practiced grace. When you maintained the connection during the mass transfer, your consciousness got caught in the data stream. By the time we could extract you, your original body had, well, there wasn't enough left to save. Voss tested her new limbs, marveling at the strength and coordination. The alien body felt natural now, as if she'd been born to it. How many did we save? 3.7 million absorbed human consciousness, transferred to the 17 ships we captured. We lost about 40,000 in the process. Their neural patterns were too damaged by the Kithrani conditioning to survive transfer. The numbers were staggering. Millions of humans, trapped in alien bodies but free to choose their own destiny. And the Kithrani fleet, gone. The self-destruct sequence took out 90% of their ships. The survivors retreated to whatever hole they crawled out of. Kozlov's alien features somehow managed to convey a grin. Turns out their perfect weapons had one design flaw they never anticipated, which was, we're still human, and humans don't stay conquered. Voss rose from the medical bay, testing her balance on legs that were simultaneously alien and familiar. Through the transparent walls, she could see the bustling activity of what had once been a Kithrani processing ship. Absorbed humans, war beasts with human consciousness, worked alongside converted human technology to repair and retrofit their captured vessels. What happens now? She asked. That's up to you, Captain. The network elected you as overall commander. Every absorbed human in the fleet recognizes your authority. The responsibility was overwhelming. Millions of people transformed into living weapons but retaining their humanity, looking to her for guidance in a universe that would never accept them as they once were. Have we tried contacting Earth, the remaining human colonies? Kozlov's expression darkened. We tried. The response was predictable. Quarantine protocols, shoot-on-sight orders. As far as the rest of humanity is concerned, we're the enemy now. Voss felt her heart break, even as understanding followed. To untransformed humans, they would look exactly like the creatures that had devoured their friends and families. The physical appearance was identical, only the consciousness inside had changed. So we're alone. Not alone, just different. Kozlov gestured toward the viewport, where the captured Kithrani ships hung in formation against the stars. But we're not the same humans who were absorbed. We're something new, something that can survive in a universe full of predators. Through the ship's neural network, Voss could feel the thoughts and emotions of millions of absorbed humans. Fear, yes, but also determination, hope, the fierce pride of survivors who had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. There are other species out there, she mused, other civilizations that the Kithrani have targeted, other worlds that need protection. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Voss looked at her clawed hands, at the reflection of her alien face, at the ships full of humans who would never again be welcomed in human space. They were outcasts now, monsters wearing the faces of loved ones. But they were also something unprecedented in galactic history, apex predators with human moral frameworks. The Kithrani wanted to create perfect weapons, she said finally. They succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. They just didn't realize they were creating weapons that would choose their own targets. She activated the fleet-wide communication system, her consciousness touching millions of others across the neural network. This is Captain Mira Voss, commanding the first human liberation fleet. To all absorbed consciousness, we are no longer victims. We are no longer weapons. We are guardians. The response was immediate and unanimous, millions of voices speaking as one. What are your orders? Captain, Voss looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy full of civilizations that had never faced predators like the Kithrani, species that were probably being harvested even now by fleets like the one they just destroyed. Find the enemy, protect the innocent, and show the universe what happens when you try to turn humanity into something it's not. She paused, feeling the weight of command and the terrible beauty of their new existence. We were made to be weapons. Fine, let's be the best weapons this galaxy has ever seen. But we choose the war, and we choose the enemy. The ships began to move, their biomechanical systems responding to human will. War beasts with human souls, carrying human technology integrated with alien biotechnology, setting course for the deep void where other predators lurked. Behind them, Kepler 440 to be fell away into darkness. Ahead lay infinite space and infinite possibility. The Kithrani had wanted to create perfect killers. Instead, they had given birth to humanity's greatest evolution, monsters with hearts, weapons with conscience, predators who would hunt only those who preyed upon the innocent. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Voss smiled with her alien face and felt, for the first time since her transformation, truly human. The war beasts were coming, and they were on humanity's side.